There's another girl on the call, if you can see her right there.
Oh, sweet girl.
Arlo, say hi.
Hi,
Oh,
Arlo. Qué linda, muy bien.
oh, oh.
Thank you everybody for joining this lunch with the friends titled Women of the Wilderness with Cory Maria Dack and Ashley Bredemus. We wanted to have a little panel during March to honor International Women's Day, which was about 2 weeks ago now. So thank you everybody for being here. And this webinar will be recorded for later viewing. If you want to watch it again, we will send the recording out probably tomorrow or on Monday, and we'll post it on the YouTube. So to get started, if you have any questions for Cory or Ashley throughout this time, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. We'll address those at the end. I have a few handful of questions that I'm going to be asking Ashley and Cory during this time, but we also want to hear from all of you at the end of the webinar. And I am going to, oops, sorry. You can still see my screen? Yeah, did it X out? Okay, I'm trying to,
I can
I'll
still
probably,
see you.
okay. I'm probably gonna stop sharing now then, just so I can get to the other parts. Okay, so a little bit about Cory and Ashley. So Cory is an Indigenous Latina who was born in Ecuador and raised in northern Minnesota. Cory uses she, her, and ella pronouns, and she has canoed the entire Mississippi River, source to sea, during the winter months of 2022 through 2023. Her journey highlighted the need to bridge equity gaps in the outdoors for women broadly and women of color specifically, as well as for immigrants, fat-bodied people, members of the LGBTQ plus community, economically disadvantaged people, and other demographics that are underrepresented on the water and in the outdoors. Cory has been guiding canoe trips in the BWCA since 2007 and has spent the last few years leading ecotourism and adventure trips through Costa Rica, Patagonia, Belize, Guatemala, and Ecuador. She also runs as a street medic, supporting the Black Lives Matter movement in the Twin Cities and supporting our Native American leaders fighting for environmental justice on the Mississippi River and beyond. She sees social justice and environmental justice as inextricably tied to one another and brings that lens with her to all that she does. So that is Cory. And yes.
Hi, everyone.
And now for Ashley. So Ashley is the co-owner of Birchwood Wilderness Camp, a small summer camp at the edge of the BWCAW for boys ages 7 to 17. She has lived at the camp since 2018 in a small primitive cabin called the Pepper Shack and began sharing the beauty of the area and cabin living online in 2019. She also welcomes 2 women's yoga retreats on the property for Boreal Bliss yoga retreats each summer. Ashley is inspired to share the experience of learning hard skills like paddling a canoe or building a campfire in order to help others cultivate soft skills like self-confidence, inner peace, and connection to others and the earth. She has been on a journey to redefine what it means to be an outdoors woman for herself and anyone who feels the draw of nature. So here's to Cory and Ashley for hopping on today. So we're gonna get right to it. And for those who just joined, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A function down below. And I have some questions that I'm going to be asking Cory and Ashley throughout this hour, but we will get to your questions if there's time at the end of the webinar. And this webinar is being recorded for later viewing. Okay, are you both ready?
Yeah,
We're ready.
get into it.
Okay, perfect. So we'll start with Cory first. How did you develop your interest in outdoor and natural spaces?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for that intro, Maggie. Like I said, I'm Cory, she, her, or ella en Espanol pronouns. I am a transracial adoptee, so I was born in Ecuador, adopted when I was 3 months, and called Duluth home. And growing up, I really wasn't actually outdoorsy at all. I was really involved in like marching band, theater, speech team. I was in drama club. But I had a friend who went to a place called Camp Vermilion, and she grew up going to that camp. And I'd always wanted to go to a summer camp, but my family didn't have the financial means to send me. So I just never was really exposed to camping, canoeing, anything. And my friend said, "Why don't you come work at the summer camp with me that I grew up going to? You love kids and you always wanted to go to camp." So that's how I first got my feet wet in the outdoors, so to speak. I'd never been canoeing. I'd only kind of barely heard of the Boundary Waters. And I spent 3 years as a camp counselor at Camp Vermilion. And there were people there called canoe guides. And I was like, "What do you mean you're canoe guides? Like, what do you do?" And they were like, "Well, we actually take people on trail into this place called the Boundary Waters for 5 days." And I was like, "That sounds terrifying. I would never do that. People could die. You have to build fires. You have to go to the bathroom in a hole. You have to sleep on the ground. I don't think I could ever do that." But here I am 17 years later. I'm still a canoe guide. My first time ever in the Boundary Waters, I was 24 years old, and it was staff training to be a canoe guide. I'd kind of worked my way up as a camp counselor, kind of honing like the human skills. I still had to learn the technical skills of how to stern, build a fire, paddle portage. And that first trip was really impactful in the Boundary Waters. It was so beautiful and special, but it was really hard. And I cried every single day. And I remember thinking, this is a mistake. I don't know if I should be here, but I felt something really deep inside me that even though I didn't grow up being exposed to this kind of lifestyle and nature like this, I felt there was like deep peace and healing and joy to be found in nature. And I felt like I deserved a chance to experience that, even though I felt like I didn't fit in at all. And I think that's kind of been my guiding light as I've continued to work and guide for many companies and summer camps. Just the thing I value most is making sure people who are brand new to these wild places feel welcome and that they feel like they belong there as well. So that's kind of how I first got my start.
Thank you, Cory. Ashley, what about you?
Cory, I love your story, and I see some similarities with like the summer camp piece of it, because that's been a really big piece of my story. I grew up on a little like hobby farm. My parents, I'm an only child, and my parents, we had Clydesdales, and my mom was like such an animal person, and I mean fox, deer, raccoons. She just loved all nature, and nature seemed to love her. And that was like a natural propensity towards like, I just want to be outside, however that looks. And for me, that always looked like very gentle, taking my dad's backpack and putting like cheese crackers in it and going out to this one tree that I loved and just like literally just sitting underneath it. And that for a very long time as my childhood was like my idea of spending time outdoors. It was very gentle, just really simple. And then I went to summer camp, and for me it was more focused on sailing, but it was a summer camp that my grandparents owned. So I got to go for free, which was helpful. And yeah, there I was really encouraged to develop some sort of skill in the outdoors. Like I said, for me, that was sailing at first, and then to learn how to be a leader in that once I developed those skills. Um, so summer camp was a huge piece of it for me, and it was an all girls camp as well. So seeing other girls being afraid to learn these things, like it's kind of scary to learn how to take out a sailboat all on your own. That's one of the things that you have to do to get like the highest achievement award in sailing at that camp. And that's really scary to take out a boat all on your own and learn how to right it if it tips. And so I learned all of these skills there, and later oh gosh, a lot later after college, I led a trip for that camp into the Boundary Waters. And that was my first time ever leading a girls' trip with all of these girls that depended on me. And so it was kind of like this full circle moment of seeing all of those skills developed and taking girls into the Boundary Waters. Summer camp was a huge piece of it for me too, Cory. And I'm sure that'll pop up as we get into things more.
Yeah, shout out to summer camps. I still work for them. We love them.
Yep.
Okay, next, kind of some fun questions. What is your favorite piece of gear, fun versus functional?
I thought about this, and I would say functional is my canoe, and I feel very blessed to say that I have my own canoe. That's like a very special thing to me. So it's very functional. And it's my dad put my mom's name on the back. My mom has since passed away, so it's like a very special functional piece of camping gear for me. Um, and for like fun gear, I thought about this too. I feel like I'm kind of a boring person, but I have one piece of camping gear. It's a solo stove. It's like this tiny little campfire that looks like a tin can basically. But you can set it up and have a campfire anywhere. So if you're like at the end of a portage and there's space for you to like have lunch and have a little campfire, it doesn't have any impact on the ground beneath it. Um, so yeah, that's my fun piece of gear, I'd say.
That's
Corey,
awesome.
what about you?
Oh gosh, functional. Well, I'm very Ecuadorian, so I'm frequently cold. It's why I mostly summer guide, which is like the cruel irony of doing a full winter solstice of the Mississippi River. That was rough. But I also, as a fat-bodied person, I have a hard time finding sleeping bags that I can feel comfortable in. And this is just shout out to the sleeping bag companies that are actually like doing the work and being size inclusive because it doesn't matter how expensive and fancy your down bag is, if you can't like if you're really restricted, then the down isn't like lofting, so you're not staying warm. And so what did you pay all that crazy amounts of money for? And someone, when I was on this brutally cold Mississippi River trip, was like, "Have you tried a quilt?" And I was like, "I don't think like a sleeping bag quilt is going to cut it for me." But thankfully, I was able to get one and from Catabatic, and they're incredible. And I found like if you are a bigger bodied person, the sleeping bag quilt, there are ways to kind of attach it underneath your sleeping pad so it still keeps you really warm. And you don't have like drafts on the side. And that just allowed like me in the body that I have to stay warm on this long form adventure. And I'd always been afraid that a quilt wasn't going to be warm enough, but this one really was. And like y'all know, like no matter what kind of adventure you're on, like you need to sleep. And if you are really cold, that hinders your ability to sleep, no matter how many layers you have on, no matter how many hot water bottles you fill to put in by your toesies. So shout out that being like really functional and a game changer. I've taken it with me everywhere and um it's a lot lighter too because you know when you obviously you sleep on a sleeping bag the down that you're sleeping on top of is compressed as well. So it's kind of like lost space. So I know it's highly functional. I was a non-believer, now I'm a believer. And then I think my fun piece is I have those like those Lucy lights that you blow up that are solar powered. So
Yes.
I just clip them to like, yeah, to the deck plate of my canoe all day and charge through the power of the sun. And I have the Lucy light that changes different colors. So I can have a little rave in the tent, especially if it's like cold and rainy and you've got a bunch of homesick 11-year-olds. Like throwing a dance party in your tent is good for you as well for them. So shout out to like bringing a little color at night into your tent.
I love that. I'm gonna have my husband has a loose one of those Lucy lights, and he needs to get the rave version because he's just got the boring
Yep.
version.
Even the boring version has like a strobe function, so you know.
There you go. We can make do.
What is your favorite Boundary Waters lake?
Corey, I'm really curious to hear what yours is because you've paddled like the same waters that I have up here and beyond, but I'm curious what yours is.
Well, two answers. One, there's a lake I've never been to. It's called Wabang. And I
Oh,
think that's a hilarious name for a lake. And my last summer guiding for Camp Vermilion, which was 2013, we got a new canoe and we named all the canoes after Boundary Waters lakes. And that was like my campaign of the summer to name that lake Wabang. So I've never been there. I will go there someday. I think it's hard to get to, but I just saw it on a map one day and I was like, this is the lake. And then lakes that I've actually been on, I just think that border route, if you even put on like Seagull or Sag, going through like Knife Lake, Otter Track, those really long, kind of skinny border lakes, I mean, you're nodding already. I've been on those lakes multiple times where the color of them looks tropical. And I'll be with my campers or my friends. I'm like, look, like if the water wasn't so cold and we had slightly different vegetation, like you could not tell me I wasn't in a tropical paradise right now. And then to top it off, you just dip your Nalgene in there and you drink from those sacred waters. So I have a special place in my heart for those lakes. What about you?
That otter track is so beautiful, and all of those like skinny lakes that you're talking about on the border route are gorgeous. And there's some of those like there's little ones that connect like after you go through Monument Portage and into those that are gorgeous and so crystal clear. One time I was guiding that girls trip and there was a loon that was literally diving under our canoe and popping up and diving in our canoe and popping up, and you could see the loon swimming, which is a really cool experience. So completely get it. I would say for me, it's between two. One is Saginaw. That lake just feels, especially in the wintertime, snowmobiling up the corridor there, there's something about it that just makes you feel so small and realize like how powerful that lake is. Um, and then my second would be a very small lake called Romance Lake. It's only accessible via my property here at Birchwood, and then some of my neighbors' properties. So Voyager Canoe Outfitter sends people back there. And that's where my husband proposed to me. So it's just a very special lake to me personally. Um, yep.
And it's called Romance Lake. I'm here for
Yeah.
this story. I'm here for it.
What is your favorite trail food?
Ooh, whatever anybody's cooking for me, honestly. I'm a terrible trail cook. Oh, yeah. I we send like I said, I'm a terrible trail cook. I'll eat anything that anybody's cooking for me, but we send this one freeze dry out on trail with our campers sometimes, and it's pad thai. And some of our staff don't like it, but I love it. And then you fry spam and put it in with the pad thai, and that's really good. Um, yeah,
That
if
sounds good.
I'm
Anything you can fry.
exactly. If I'm the trail cook, we're eating like Tostitos pizza rolls. So I don't know. Corey, what's your answer?
Um, I've found, especially when you work at the same summer camps year after year after year, you can kind of get sick of the same foods. Um, and I found that if you can deep fry something, it can really take it up a notch.
Yeah.
Even like we would make burritos on trail a lot, which are yummy and full of good protein. You know, you've got your fried salami, you've got your beans, you've got everything. Very easy to make. Um, but if you kind of get sick of them, just heat them up on a little bit of oil in that pan over your fire, your cook stove, and it can take it to the next level. So I really like that. And anytime you're in the Boundary Waters and blueberry season has arrived, I have so many beautiful memories. One of my Camp Minojan groups recently, I think it was 2 years ago, we got blown into this bay on Alpine Lake. Just like we just could not get around a certain bend. And I was like, I guess this is our campsite. Like we can't get out of this bay. You know, the Pachamama has decided for us that we are stopping. And the campsite looked kind of average. And we're like, well, let's explore. And we walked over this boulder and it was just like, I think nobody had been in that area. Because it was a little bit off the beaten path. We literally got blown into this bay, and it was just like blueberries for as far as you could see. And all of my campers sat like little black bears in the blueberry bushes with like filled up their Nalgene's. Yeah, like two for me, one for the jar.
Yeah.
And then you can make fresh blueberry pancakes the next morning.
Oh yeah. I love that. Can't be beat.
Nice. Okay, moving on from the favorite questions, let's talk about your role models. Who do you look to for inspiration as women in femme identifying in the outdoor space, and which women have supported you in your career to push boundaries?
I would say for me, it's mostly the women in my real life as opposed to like somebody online or the first people that come to mind are the women that attend our yoga retreats every summer. The organizers of that retreat and the women who attend. This will be the fifth year that we've done it, and they've inspired me so much just by seeing their journey. And they've supported me so much in what I do. But to see these women come year after year who have, maybe we take them rock climbing, for example, and that can be really scary, especially the repelling, and to see them overcome that, and to see them, make really lifelong friends from this, like, 4-day yoga retreat here, in this place that I love so much, is just really, really special, and those are relationships that have really encouraged me in what I do running a boys' camp. It's always the highlight of my summer to have all of these women come together in community and just raise each other up. So yeah, like, the women that have spent time here, at camp with me are the people that have supported me and who inspire me the most.
I love that. And I love that how even though you run a boys camp, as you said, you still
Yeah,
have all these powerful connections with women in the wild. Like that's so beautiful.
sure.
I feel very lucky as a transracial adoptee who was raised in white society. I did not have women of color role models in my life. Lots of women, but representation is important, and if you can see it, you can be it. And so it was in my adult life that I found other women of color to be role models and friends. And there's not a ton of us out playing and working in nature, but like there's more and more of us every day, and we are like welcoming everyone into the fold. So those numbers are increasing. But I feel really, really blessed that right now a lot of my dearest friends are on that list. So Lee Vu, who is another Minojan person and Friends of the Boundary Waters person, Samantha Armacost, Emily Ford. These are three of my dearest friends, and they are all women of color. And Lee I've known for a number of years, but Emily and Sam I just met in the last 2 years because of my Mississippi River through paddle. So like the Mississippi River literally brought us together, and Lee, Emily, and Sam were some of the biggest supporters of my through paddle. I talked to them constantly. Lee flew down over New Year's Eve into Tennessee to paddle a chunk of the river with me. Sam lent me and my paddle partners her canoe to go on the whole journey. And Emily came to my launch, and halfway through the journey, she came down at the Quad Cities at a really crucial time to help get me through the locks and dams before they shut for the winter. So they literally showed up physically, but also spiritually, emotionally every day. And it's been one of the greatest joys of my life just to have other women of color who are great adventurers, because to be a woman of color in this field as a career for work or play has very specific joys and very specific challenges. And sometimes it's nice to be able to just riff with someone who gets it, who has that lived experience. So shout out to these women who have uplifted me, and it's an honor to uplift whatever they do. And it's healing generational traumas in all of our bodies, and it's really powerful and magical.
Corey, Emily Ford is one of mine too. She came through on her Boundary Waters expedition, and she needed a place to stay overnight, and she stayed here. And if anybody listening is not following her, you should go look her up. She's amazing. Yeah, just had to say that too.
Yeah, shout out to Em. She's in Alaska right now. Her partner just finished racing in the Iditarod. Shout out to Anna Hennessy, another wonderful woman of the wild and a dear friend of mine. And just to see these women out there, we're living out our dreams, and we're taking other people with us, all of us. It's not enough just to have our own great adventures. We're all very invested in making sure that other women, other people of color, other queer people, other fat-bodied people, other immigrants, whomever else, that you also know that you are welcome here. And if it seems scary because you don't see people that look like you, like look at us, and we're gonna help you get here.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. Thank you so much for sharing. That kind of perfectly goes into my next question, which is about barriers. What barriers have you encountered as a professional in the outdoor space in relation to your identities?
I feel like for me it's more so the feeling of not being like taken seriously or underestimated. Um Not so much in the business that I run, but just for example, the last girls trip that I led into the Boundary Waters, it was all girls, ages like 8 to 16. No, maybe not even that old, 14. And this was like the second day of the trip. and we had been practicing our portaging, and some of these girls have never portaged before and they were really nervous about it, and so we had it down like, okay, when we pull up, this is efficiently how we get our gear on, this is how we make it through, and spirits were really high. We were really excited to get to this one portage, and this was on the border route trail that Cory was talking about earlier, and we noticed there were a bunch of canoes behind us, and we thought, okay, well, we really have to like get this. We don't want to cause a traffic jam. And being all women, we really wanted to like prove ourselves. And we got there first, but ahead of all of these other groups behind us, and we're getting all of our gear on. And this group of men comes up and they say to my co-counselor, "Sweetie, do you mind if we just cut in front of you because we're going to be faster?" And I was so proud of her response because she said, "No, we've got this. We got here first, so etiquette says we go first. We're gonna go forward." And the girls like, not that they should have to prove themselves, but boy, did they prove themselves. And they were really proud of themselves, but it was a bittersweet experience feeling that, oh, well, somebody just underestimated us because we're women and they didn't think we would be fast enough or strong enough. And I think that is maybe a lot of people listening might have had an experience like that where they've just been simply looked at and thought, oh, underestimated. So I think for me, that's just one example of times when I felt like just by being looked at, I've been underestimated and have to prove myself. Yeah. Cory, what about you?
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I had a time once where I was in the middle of doing an emergency evac and half my group was at one end of the portage and I was on the other half of the start of the portage helping other people get across the portage and some dude was just like decided to take charge and I come across the portage and he had literally put four of my campers in one canoe without any gear and made and like yelled at them, made them cry and like had them start paddling. And I was like, "Excuse me, like I am in charge. This is an emergency evac." Like, and how dare in such a heightened situation you make my campers cry? Like you bully them? Like the audacity and the caucasity of this guy to think that he has any right to do something like that. So, yeah, I've definitely I've put up with like misogyny and racism in wild spaces for sure. But I think for me, the hardest thing has been dealing with like fat phobia, which is connected to racism. If that's a new concept to you, I suggest you research into it, how fat phobia is really actually connected to colonization and racism. And it's ableist, it's part of ableism. And so even things as simple as like, not only am I woman, not only am I brown, but like I'm a fat bodied person. And the first year I was ever training to be a canoe guide, I had a man laugh at me when I said I was training to be a canoe guide. He looked at me and my body and he laughed. And I was so mad because I was such a brand new baby canoe guide as well. And like I said, I didn't grow up doing any of this. And so I was already fighting so much imposter syndrome, like that you don't belong here, you don't have the skills. And people very incorrectly equate fatness with being unhealthy. There's a lot of research on how that's actually not true. We've really been trained. I was taught growing up that like fat people are lazy and that they're slow and they're unhealthy. And I am none of those things. And many fat bodied people also are not any of those things. And so as a person who was like didn't have this current vocabulary and paradigm, I was fighting all of that internalized hate within my own body. So to have these skinny white men literally look at me and laugh um was devastating and made me very mad. But what I didn't do was stop. I think a thing I'm proud of is that although I still deal with that stuff all the time, even on my Mississippi River trip, and I still have to unpack imposter syndrome all the time, I think like winning over that is not that those little internalized voices never go away. It's that you never let them stop you. Like we all, even if you are like a skinny cis white male, you've got imposter syndrome, right? And like women and women of color and fat-bodied people, we have to deal with it like even more. So it's just like hearing those voices and being like, okay, voices, you're just something I've internalized from external violence. And you might be in my head, but I am so worthy. I am so worthy of these experiences. I'm female, I'm fat, I'm brown, and I deserve to be here. Everyone deserves to be here. And so I'm going to keep lifting these canoes and I'm going to keep paddling these waters. And you can never, ever stop me because we all get to have this healing that nature brings.
Absolutely. Corey, do you ever find that sometimes that can even fuel you? For me, it sometimes it like the anger that it might boil up will fuel me to be like, oh, well, let me show you that I can do it, you know?
Yeah. For sure. And I also try to find the balance. Like sometimes taking that, I'll be like, okay, let you fuel my fire because you don't get to win. And other times I also try to be in balance of being like, what you say doesn't affect me, period. So I kind of go back and forth between being like, I'm super zen, I'm super peaceful, whatever you say doesn't affect me. And other times I'm like, feed that fire in me. It kind of, it's
Yeah.
situational and depends on like how much sleep I got the night before and if I need a snack, if I'm dehydrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I like to like see how I react because it's always telling me more about how I feel in regards to what somebody says to me. Um, it's all everything's a mirror, right? So when somebody triggers me with that, it's like, oh, okay, wow. Yeah, I'm still really angry about that. Yep.
Exactly. Exactly.
Corey, as a follow-up to what you just shared with us, thank you. Is there any gear or resources you use to feel comfortable or like brands you want to uplift for people who might identify the same way as you as being fat-bodied?
hmm I have found it really hard to find outdoor clothes that fit me. And it's such a weird catch-22 because people are so hateful to bigger bodies. And they're like, if fat people would just go outside and go on a hike, they'd lose weight. First of all, what if I don't need to lose weight? What if you just need to treat me like a human? Okay, let's start there. And also, then you want to go outside and you don't fit. You don't fit in the sleeping bags, you don't fit in the pants. And so I will shout out that REI has had some of the best size inclusivity that I've ever seen. They could keep upping it, but it's also to go to REI and they not only have the gear, but they have it in the stores. A lot of places will be like, "Oh, we do have like triple X online," but it's very anxiety inducing to have to buy big bodied clothes online because then you got to try it on and what if it doesn't really fit? And then okay, I can ship it back, but now I'm losing more money on shipping it back. So any store that you find that has big body clothing actually on the racks, I shout I shout out that REI does that. And like I said, Catabatic, their sleeping quilts have been really good if you're a fat-bodied person and God forbid you want to sleep on your side and you need a little more room. Even if you're a side sleeper as a skinny-bodied person, I find that those quilts, my friends have told me, work really well. Um, those are the ones I can think of. I haven't, someone just said, are you familiar with Brown Girls Climb? No, but I'd love to look into that. I just sent Alex a response. I meant to send it a while ago. That's another thing is that I've been to climbing gyms and they're like, oh, we just don't have a harness in your size. And it's just everybody deserves to learn how to climb. Like everybody and also every body deserves that. And so yeah, if you're a climber and you know of like size inclusive harnesses, I found climbing to be the worst part of outdoor rec for someone in my sized body. Hiking, I just gotta like I can go to Target and get some athleisure wear and go on a hike. Canoeing is really great. Just life jackets are very easy to size, but climbing's been a hard one. So if you know of things, put them in the comments.
Yeah, sounds like we still have some work to do when it comes to being accessible for all body types. Thanks for sharing, Corey. Um, you both kind of already touched on this, but I want to more formally ask, how do you handle pushback and judgment and negative energy against what you are doing?
Oof, that's a really good question. it's tough for me because, like, I mean, I have a staff of 20 college age guys, and I know for a fact that every summer there's gonna be some guys who think like, who is this little chippy that's telling me what to do and when to do it? Um, or just men who see me in the outdoors and underestimate me, or um so yeah, sometimes I do get really kind of fired up about it. Um, but at the end of the day, I try to think, okay, well, what's the lesson for me here? This is not about them. This is about me and my experience. Um, gosh, I don't know. Corey, do you have input on that? I'm still trying to kind of formulate how I feel about that question.
Can you say the question one more time, Maggie?
Yeah, how do you handle pushback, judgment, and negative energy against what you are doing?
I'm a really healthy crier. I cry whenever I need to, and I think crying is such like a deep connection back to the earth to like feel your feelings. Um, is a great way to decolonize an experience, especially as women. When we cry, there are people who want to like hold that up as a sign of weakness. But I think to cry openly and when you need to is a great source of strength that you're allowing yourself to move through those emotions, to move them through your body. And that's how you heal and overcome. So I try to really honor my emotions when people say stuff that is hurtful. Like, I'm a human. It hurts me. I'm not a superhero. Like, and so I allow myself to feel those feelings. I cry when I need to. I have an awesome therapist and I talk to them whenever I need to. I have a great, family and friends and support community. Moments like this where we get to just speak openly and honestly about it. This is always uplifting and invigorating. Um, and I just feel very grounded in like we our people, no matter what heritage you have, our people have been deeply connected to the land. I'm an indigenous Latina, and so like my ancestors, biological human ancestors are, from South America, but all of us, our ancestors are connected to the land. And so kind of remembering that we just really deserve to get reconnected to the land like our ancestors always have been, whether you are European heritage or African or Asian, South North American. Um, like this is what's most natural to be in these spaces and to be connected. And so no matter what other people think about it, like you deserve to. And so I think that like I just keep coming back. Even when I feel sad or broken, like I'm like, well, I'm just gonna keep doing this. And that helps you build up, I think, a certain resilience. But yeah, cry when you need to and get a good therapist.
Corey, I love that, and also like cry outside too. I every morning my routine is, there's just like when I was a kid, there's this giant white pine that I always go sit at, and I feel the safest sitting under that dang tree, and it's a great place to go and like ground down, feel whatever you're feeling in your body because you're meant to feel the things in your body. That's, if you don't, that's how they get stuck there. So yeah, I love everything that you just said, Corey.
Thanks, you too. I love that. Did you say it was a white pine or what kind of
Mhm.
pine?
Yeah, it's a white pine.
Majestic. I love white pines. I love that you have that like connection. And I also find animals, I mean, everybody's individual, but I feel like animals are a great release for me. I've definitely been going about my day. Again, I don't like really suppress my feelings, but um somebody's like dog comes up to me, or at Camp Minojan we have sled dogs in the winter and I'd go in the dog yard if I was visiting and all of a sudden be like, I just need to cry with these dogs. So if you have something that helps you open up, release a friend or a white pine or a dog, like lean into that and let those feelings, let them go and let them flow. It's really healthy.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, next question. What lady hacks do you have for women and femme identifying individuals when they are exploring in the wilderness on their own adventure, whether that is with menstruation, peeing outside, just feminine hygiene overall?
I love this question. So one thing that I learned when I started working at Camp Minojan, which at first grossed me out, and then I'm like, no, actually, this is better, is to have like a pee rag. So for like women or people with female genitalia, like it's just different to pee out in the wilderness. I really like having a two-piece swimsuit. So if I have to pee in a portage, I'm not just like naked squatting out there. So shout out to the two pieces. And then to have a pee rag was a thing that was new to me until I started working at the YMCA Camp Manoogian. And it can be like a bandana that you just tie onto your backpack or your life jacket. But to go pee out in the woods and then be able to wipe is really good for feminine hygiene. Like people with our genitalia have a higher chance of getting like a yeast infection or a UTI when you're doing these great long form adventures just because of how our bodies are made. So wiping's important. And if you're worried about wiping with the wrong leaf, which I have done, and it
Oh,
was terrible,
oh,
I know since that moment, I do not wipe with things that grow out of the ground anymore, because I've been traumatized. So I have a pee rag, and it's great because mostly I canoe, but even if you're backpacking, you wipe, and then I'll just go to the end of the portage and I'll wring it out in the water, tie it to my life jacket, let it air dry. And shout out to Kula Cloth, Kula. You can just rip up part of a t-shirt or you can like get a bandana, but that's like a name brand P rag. That has a little clip so you can clip it to your life jacket or backpack, and it's like black on one side, and I don't know, they're just like really lightweight. They dry really, really quickly. They're like a good size. Sometimes my bandanas are like a little long. I have to cut them smaller. And that's just a good start for hygiene on trail.
yeah, the yoga retreat that we host every summer, they bring like sweatshirts and t-shirts to sell, and they have like a branded Boreal Bliss Kula cloth for sale for all the ladies because they're really handy to have for sure. We don't have a bathroom in this cabin that we sleep in, so I pee outside every day. Um, it's important to yeah, keep yourself clean for sure.
Hmm.
And now I'm
As far
scared
as
to use leaves, Corey.
yeah, I know, I know. I don't want to scare anyone. I'm just saying I've
No.
lived through it, and it was
Sounds
like a really bad time in my life.
yeah, sounds horrible.
But the reason I did it, like, because I there was like a lot of like colonizing behavior being like, oh, like if you're a real outdoorsman, you wipe with what you find. And I was like, fine, I'll try it. And I thought like I knew what to wipe and what not to wipe with, and I just apparently I didn't.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry.
That sounds very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would say for menstruation, different people like different things. But someone said restoring is key. Oh, that's about what I was saying for a long. I thought you were talking about for having poison ivy. Um, yes, I'd say for menstruation, some people still want to use pads or tampons, and obviously I think every single place you would go backcountry camping, you need to have like a little bio bag to pack those out. If you use a menstrual cup, you can dig a little hole and dump the contents out in the hole. Or if you're like in the Boundary Waters, they have latrines, you can dump the contents of your moon cup out in the hole. And then that's really easy because you don't have to pack out used pads or tampons. So I actually really like using the cup. I know that there's like good brands of they're called period panties that some people like to bring on trail in case they menstruate. But the one thing I say to menstruators is that being on trail is a big shift in your body. And so even if you have like very regular periods or you're on birth control, so you're not expecting to get your periods, bring something with you just in case because you are sleeping on the ground, which your body's not used to. You are probably paddling, portaging, hiking, climbing, whatever all day. So physical exertion is different. You're eating very different foods, like a lot of freeze-dried, dehydrated things. Changes in sleep, exercise, and diet, any one of those things, let alone all three of them, can trigger an unplanned period, even if you're on birth control. And as someone who is a menstruator and has taken out largely like women's trips, I've seen this happen many times. So just even if you think you're not going to use it, make sure you have a little bio bag for used products and you have the products of your choice. Because it's not going to take up that much room or weight in your pack. And there's nothing worse than getting a surprise period on trail where you might have not access to like obviously not a shower, but if you're backpacking, you might not be along water for a day or two.
I would also say like don't be alarmed if like you're expecting to get your period and don't for the same reasons that Corey just said too. Um, because yeah, and also digestive things are different out on trail. The whole 9 can be different, you know?
Yes, I agree with that, Ashley.
Mhm.
Great, thank you both so much. Okay, we have a few more questions left. For women and femme-identifying individuals that don't want to go super hardcore, so maybe feeling that imposter syndrome with thinking, oh, I'm only an adventurer if I go out into the wilderness for a week or 2 weeks, and maybe they just want to do a day or a weekend trip. What advice do you have for them, especially if they don't see themselves as belonging or as like a valid adventurer for not going as hardcore?
I feel like this has been my experience to a T. I have never had the desire to, like, go on a big expedition, and, that's kind of why I've been on this mission to redefine what it means to be an outdoors woman for myself, and for anybody else who kind of feels like if I'm not gonna go on a huge expedition, there's no place for me. For me, being an outdoors person is really about your connection to nature, and you can have a connection to nature by sitting at the end of your dock and dangling your toes in the water. I mean, or gardening or reading a book outside. Like, there are all these ways in which you can cultivate a relationship with the earth and Mother Nature, and that can be very personal to you. So, I guess my advice would be to reframe it and ask yourself, what feels the most in tune with how I could have a relationship with nature? And if that's not going on a big expedition, then that's fine. That's not your that's not your relationship, and it doesn't mean it's any less valid than, like, Cory, who's done this amazing expedition, Emily Ford, who we talked about, who and her partner Anna, who's done the Iditarod, like, all of these things that are so inspiring to me, but I know are not where I fit in, and yet there is still a place for me to fit in right alongside them. Yeah.
I love that, Ashley. I love that. Like, get in where you fit in. And I just really want to uplift what Ashley said, how any time you spend in nature is so deeply important and valuable. And we don't need to put a quantification on like how many days were you out there or like how deep were you in the backcountry. Like being with nature in any way is a great way to be an outdoors woman or a person in the outdoors. And I think I talk a lot about like decolonizing our relationship with nature and like, yeah, like I do like big adventures, but I would never look at someone who had less time on, for example, the Mississippi River and feel like their adventure was less than mine. Like, absolutely not. No, it's really important that we uplift all connections to being outside. And some people will say like, start small, but I don't even want to say small because that's so relative. Like going on a day hike is a really big deal. And that deserves to be celebrated. Like we can I like to think about making room at the table for these celebrations. Like, yeah, like I want to celebrate my Mississippi trip and like, Emily's Ice Age hike trail over the Ice Age trail, but we make room at the table, all of us, for like everyone's experience to be celebrated at that table. It doesn't have to be so extreme at all. So I love that you said that, Ashley. I'm 100% behind that.
Well, and you just feel so uplifted when everybody's at the table because you have so many different experiences there, and, yeah, it just feels really good, what you said.
Thank you both so much. That was beautiful. Okay, one more question for you both. Can you give one or two pieces of advice to women and femme identifying people in the next generation?
Thought about this question that you had for us, Maggie. That's a big question. Um, there's just so many things I could say, but, um, I mean, going back to what we were just talking about, like, you can start anywhere, and really it's all about your connection with nature, and also, um, I find a lot of times that women take the focus off of themselves and put it onto other people, and sometimes that can be used as a motivator, and so I'm gonna use that as a motivator today with my advice, and that is that you don't know where it starts and you don't know where it ends, meaning you don't know the ripple effect that you being in the outdoors can cause for other people. Simply just being maybe you go on a solo hike and there's another woman there that sees you and she's with friends or something and she's so inspired to go on her own solo hike, or my point is you have no idea the ripple effect of going out and doing what feels right to you, what ripple effect that causes, and I think that's a beautiful thing and something to always have at the front of your mind when you're in these outdoor spaces. So that I guess that would be my piece of advice.
Yes. Yes, I love that, and I think connected to that is just, like, remember that you belong here, and you deserve this.